like I've solved YouTube Shorts in the sense of like, I know how to average 10 million views per short. And it's like, yeah, I could figure out how to average 100 million views.
I mean, it's worked for you, so I mean, your results show. The first thing is, why did you start specializing more in shorts versus long form content?
Dang, that's such a good question. I think shorts has a big reach. A lot of brands will oftentimes lean more towards shorts than long form
Mhm.
because sometimes they just want to get as many views as possible.
So it's good for other, I guess, small creators to realize you can make it in the short world.
Totally. It's all about reach.
When did you sit down and say, I want to do YouTube videos, or was it something just for fun and it worked out, or was it something like I really want to do YouTube? Like what's the journey behind like how you got started?
I was also into like musicals at one point in my life as well. It's like I don't know. I'm an entertainer.
What types of styles of videos do you think do best?
It's definitely how you're creating the content, but I would look at niches that are untapped and there's not that many people in. If you're gonna do general entertainment, Mr. Beast is like an A tier creator. So to stand out amongst the crowd, you need to be even higher than Mr. Beast because he's the best in entertainment.
Do you think you're always going to stick with the short form content?
I really want to do long form content. It could have more stressful times, but it's more satisfying.
Okay, so you find more satisfaction in building something from the ground up,
Yeah, totally.
which is okay. That's fair. So you'll always be successful in life because if you have that kind of mindset, once you achieve something and get it to a certain level, you'll just kind of jump onto a new thing. So when you're coming up with your ideas for creating a short, what are your biggest inspirations for? Is it just general things you see in life? Do you watch other people? And how do you know how to keep the hook?
As for like a hook, turning it from like, oh, that's kind of meh to like what makes it like great is conciseness and foreshadowing. So what I mean by that is a good hook stops your scroll, but a great hook gets you to watch all the way to the end. But you're not just hooked for that second, you're hooked for the whole 60 seconds.
Huh, very interesting. So just by the wording and how you start off the video changes the whole like dynamic of the video just by because
Totally.
what would you say the average person's attention span? How quickly do you have to grab that person's attention?
I believe it's one. I
One
know
second.
it sounds crazy. I think it's one. 3 seconds max. Like, no, 3 seconds is pushing it.
So
Definitely
if you
one
don't have
second.
a person's attention within 3 seconds, it's like you're gonna probably lose that person to watch your
Oh,
content.
totally.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like well, not almost. It's a science when you really break it down, like how precise kind of the small details need to be. There's creators I've seen that will make a long form content, and then what they'll do out of that long form content, they will chop up. I guess there's a feature on YouTube now where they will chop up and take segments out of their long form content and make that their shorts, with the intent if the person clicks the short that they will then put a link like in their description, so then that they go back to the person's long form content. Have you seen that done before?
I have.
So
I'm
what are your
not a
thoughts
fan of
about
it.
that? You're not a fan of it?
Yeah, so it's a problem in many aspects. For one, a part of a long form, it's impossible to optimize for both. Shorts need to be really concise, but long forms would be exhausting if they were that concise for that long. So if you're clipping out a portion, it just won't succeed on shorts, especially if it's a middle of a long form, there's no hook and you're not following certain things that should apply to a short. So for example, a
Mhm.
short should be its own individual story where one loop is open and one loop is ended. What used to be a long form idea is a short, but the new long forms are now 3 to 10 long forms combined. It's like that's what YouTube's become nowadays. But instead, I would make a standalone short.
So make a standalone short if you're already there filming whatever topic, and then use that to go to the long form content if
Yeah,
that's
like
what.
if anything, separately edit it so it has its own story.
So with shorts, how long do you typically keep your shorts at? I notice a lot of people don't even exceed that minute. They keep it under a minute. Is there a reason for that, or is it just depending on the person's channel?
YouTube caps you at 60 seconds, but
Correct.
I personally like to be at around 34 seconds because I just took my averages of my top performing videos and found that that's like that's just what my audience consumes because everyone has different audiences,
True.
different attention spans, and I find that's the range for me that works.
How many videos did you do before you came up with that average, would you say?
I believe like 50. And I'm
Okay,
a little
so
over 100 now. But what I would do is experiment with like 15 to 60. So 15, 30, 45, 60. Like, and do each one at least 3 times, 3 times four, 12 videos. Maybe by then you'll have a better grip for it.
do you suggest uploading videos at certain times of the day, I hear mixed things. Like some people say at certain times you should all it should be every Monday at 2 o'clock Eastern. Or what do you think about that when people say that?
There's no magic time. If a video's
Okay.
good, YouTube will push it out.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
But they said if you're a small channel just starting, you need to just dish out as much as you can because you need to see what gets picked up and what they like about your particular video.
The reason why some people say set time, and I think this applies more for long form, is because sometimes people treat creators like their TV show. Oh, at Saturday at 5 p.m., they're going to upload their video. For sure, people won't wait for it.
Okay, so maybe it's depending if you're doing short form or long form, huh? It almost looks like the short form and the long form, they're almost like their own separate little
They
arenas.
are.
Yeah, yeah, because the rules for long form isn't necessarily the rules for short form. And I think maybe when someone starts, they should know that because it's
It's
almost
tough.
like
It's
a
like cooking and baking. It's like they're
yeah.
similar, but it's like completely different.
Another thing with short form content, one thing I've noticed, and this is really, and I don't know how to explain this, videos that you wouldn't think are good, they just do really, really well, and you're like, why? Is it just time and chance, or do you think there's a reason for that?
Okay, so I found that the best videos that perform are the most natural, real videos, which is why you want to optimize, but optimize it to a point where it looks like there was no strict planning or anything like that. Like, for example, I'll record myself walking at the dollar store and I'll set up the camera far and then I'll go back and then I'll walk through like as if I didn't just set up the camera and it's like you know what I mean? It's like make it look like you were actually there and it's like a natural thing. So I think it's like you gotta make it look as realistic as possible while still being optimized.
So I was doing a short about like there's a lot of these pop-up places that like will sell food on the streets now. And I said, I said, why is this happening? Just to get people, and people said it's because the cost of owning buildings is so high. With everything going up, people are like, well, I can't afford to spend 10 grand a month in rent for a restaurant, and then have to go through food licensing regulation, all these rules, right? So a lot of these guys now, they're just setting up. It's almost like in a lot of Latin cultures, they'll just set up a food spot on this corner. And so I asked, and it was really simple. I was at the bank and I heard some music, and so all I did was record it. And I said, "Hey, why do you guys think this is happening?" And for my channel, it did like 5.9 times better than all my other videos. And it was very just, it was so basic. There was nothing really structured behind it. And I just did it for fun just to see. And for my channel compared to the other videos, it actually did fairly well. So I was surprised.
Sometimes the idea is so good that it could work. Like the way I like to think of it is when coming up with ideas, I try to like now like moving forward, like I only pick ideas that like I know the video will be entertaining watching without the edit. So if it's funny to watch before editing, imagine what it's gonna be like after editing. So it's like making engaging videos, like even if there was no editing and it was just the raw footage. And I think that concept is really great. Like the fact that you're just asking like strangers about this and it's a valid question. It's true.
So for someone starting off in the shorts world, if you had to give them one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Be concise, not fast. A lot of people think that, oh my gosh, it's only 30 seconds. I have to talk really fast. Everything has to happen all at the same time. But no, you can be slow. You can talk at a regular human pace, same pacing as a long form, but just much more concise.
Now, one question I have for you is I notice shorts don't have thumbnails, huh?
Um, you
Because
can't make custom thumbnails, no, but you can select what image you want the video to be.
so how do you pick your image for your short, so to speak? How do you what do you look at it like you would make a regular thumbnail? Do you find the most interesting image in your video and like that's what I have to use?
Yes, you must use the most interesting image. But to add to that, I always the first frame of my video, like every video, the hook is the most interesting part of the video. I always hook and start with the most interesting part of the video, and then in turn that becomes the thumbnail.
Okay, so the hook becomes the thumbnail.
Yeah, because the hook should be the most entertaining part of the video.
One thing I noticed with a lot of your videos, you use objects or things that are familiar. So like the restaurant ones like McDonald's, Chipotle, Star, you use a brand that someone's aware of, and then I noticed you'll use that. Is that done on purpose because it's something we all kind of generally will know?
Totally.
That
Because
makes
the branding is huge. These places are they're really popular, so I know they'll recognize it. I need to make the logo nice and big and clear.
No, interesting question. Do you see yourself doing YouTube for the because you're young? Do you want to do YouTube to like 40, or do you have a window and you want to do other things, or do you think you'll always do it because you enjoy it so much?
Oh, I always do YouTube.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the future would look like, but I'm hoping that I can like target multiple markets. Like right now, I'm like doing just money content, but maybe eventually, like I grow to be like a general entertainment. I mean, like I said, I want to be an entertainer.
If you did, okay, remember I did that video about quarters, or like why do quarters not have
Yeah,
ridges?
yeah, yeah.
A cool game I guess you could do, it would kind of be cool. Let's say you went up to some random people and you asked them money questions, but like really wild. Okay, for example, on Mexican currency, they have an ocelot on there. It's a really rare, like salamander type creature on their money. So if you went up to someone, just me thinking out loud here, like I went up or you went up to someone and said, okay, I'm going to ask three money questions that you got to get one right to win a prize. Why do quarters not have ridges? And give them three options to make one just kind of like the real one, something so utterly ridiculous, and see do people know these random, just I don't know, interesting facts about money? Like, why do quarters not have ridges? It was a typo or a print. Like, do you know how potato chips were created?
I think I've heard this. Oh, what was it? It was a chef, and it said the potato wasn't cooked enough until he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make this so thin and cook it, and so he doesn't complain." And it was potato chips.
Yeah. So potato chips, one of the biggest industries in the world, were an accident.
Yeah,
It was an utter accident. So like,
it was so genius.
yeah, but it wasn't intended. So like, that'd be a cool, like most people probably don't know that. Like, that's where their potato chips came from. It was an accident. It was never. So there's cool things that were created that were honestly just they were just accidents. And then, do you know what the word kangaroo means?
No
It
clue.
comes from a dialect, and all it means is, "What is that thing that jumps?" That's literally what the name means. So the name kangaroo was a question somebody asked, and then they took that and they thought that that was the name. So it was an
Oh
accident.
my gosh, that's good.
Yeah. So it's like, what is that thing that jumps? Is what it means, and it's in English, kangaroo. Thing that jumps, what is it? And it was a question, but somebody heard someone say, they thought, well, that's the name of the animal, and somehow that became the animal's name. But that's not. It's not even a name. It's a question phrase.
That is so cool. I don't know how
Yeah.
you these random facts.
I like watching a lot of just interesting things, and I think it's kind of like I'll end you with a fun one. This one is a one I learned recently. I thought it was fun. Okay, how many Earths do you think can fit into the sun?
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't know.
Just throw a guess. Here, we'll play the game. Okay, is it 100,000? Is it 500,000? Or is it a million?
I was gonna say 100, but now that you threw those numbers,
No, it's not 100.
what? 100,000.
It's about 1.3 million. So about 1.3 million suns, I mean Earths, would fit inside the volume of the
No,
sun.
that makes sense. What was I thinking? Because all the
The sun's really big. It's really big.
yeah, and all the planets go around the
Yeah,
sun.
we all orbit the sun. Jupiter is about 300 times larger than Earth, but it would take about a million Earths to fill the sun, right? So there's a star they recently discovered called Stephenson 218. The star is so large, according to scientists, it would take 9.2 billion suns to fill the volume of it. To put that into comparison, it's a comparison of you getting an apple versus the entire state of California. That's the size difference.
From the sun and the new star?
Yeah, the new
Oh my
star is so big it
gosh.
would take 9.2 billion suns to fill the volume. So it's like comparing an apple to an
Oh
entire
my
state.
gosh.
I mean,
Scary.
yeah. So stuff like that, if it was money or random things, like the engagement factor with people, I think is kind of fun too.
Yeah, people love stuff like that for sure.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure talking to you again. I look forward to seeing more of your shorts. Thanks so much.
Alright, thanks, looking forward to
Okay.
watching this.